What's up, everyone? Good morning, good evening to everyone out in the States. I'm going to be making myself available for the next 30 minutes for anyone who has any questions for me. But first, I'll start with a quick weekly update on things I've been up to. So let's get into it now. Let's see. I haven't really been promoting my class very much. I've just been a little busy, but people have been enrolling in the class, so it's good to see people joining. If you are interested in just learning just the general techniques that I'm using, it's not a fully featured course. It doesn't have a lot of practice questions or anything like that, but you can learn the sort of theory behind all the decisions that I make in my live streams. Yeah, you can sign up for my monthly subscription for $25 a month, which I think it's a good deal because you learn basically the top level, just how everything works, uh, just by going through a bunch of videos of mine. So that is that is currently where the course is. Not able to promote it very much, just because I'm basically sleep deprived on any given day. I'm exhausted on any given day because I'm working, I'm teaching a full course load and like a full workload, and then whenever I have time at lunch, I'm trying to make TikToks during lunch. It's not been very successful just because I'm so tired, but I try to make some TikToks during lunch, and then and then in the evenings, I'm usually working with my developer to develop the app. So an update on the app side, the app is a SAT practice app, and I we're kind of done with the part where we're just imitating the blue book. So theoretically, if I have a practice test ready right now, you guys could log in and solve a practice test um, on the app. We're not really ready to release yet, but it's theoretically possible right now. Now, sort of the next thing we're building is the review portion. So once you solve a practice test, how do you review? The problem is, I really think most kids, the way they're reviewing is it's awful. You're harming your own learning process. So I am totally ready for, um, let's say, I'm totally ready for like 7 out of 10 people who download my app to solve a practice test and then immediately delete it because they're going to be frustrated that I don't show them the score right away. But hey, dummy gum. Okay, thank you for saying that. Apparently, the vocab grammar tips. Okay, yeah. I'm kind of curious though. 1510 June SAT. That's awesome. First of all, so congratulations. What tips do you remember? And it could not just be mine. It could be kind of a synthesis of what I said and what you heard other people say or what you made up. But what tips would you share for grammar and vocab with other people in the stream? Continuing with my weekly update, though, yeah, the practice app, I am totally ready for people to just delete my app because they're frustrated, but I will refuse to show your score after you solve it. You are only going to get the score after you do the review. Okay? Because this app is right now, it's not really designed for mass adoption, it's more designed for my tutoring students. Tutoring students are high motivation because they paid a lot of money, and so I'm going to. So they already know what I'm about. They know that I don't show them the answers right away. I don't. They know that I don't get. They know that I don't get. I don't let them bias themselves with their scores during review. So when they go back into the questions during review, they don't know what score they have. And my tutoring style is I make them explain the answers to me. So yeah, this app is gonna help. my tutoring students for sure. And then, and I think it'll help maybe 3 out of 10 people who actually download it. I think the other 7 out of 10 people, they'll get annoyed that I don't give the scores right away, but it's okay. I'm just gonna let that be. But I think actually with the app, you will learn to anyone who has some like above 50% motivation. Okay, if you're below 50% motivation, I don't think my app is gonna cut it for you. But if you have relatively high motivation, I think that my app will teach you to do predict and match, like hopefully really effectively. Like hopefully you will become a sort of predict and match god after practicing in the app that I'm developing. So right now I don't really have the app. I mean, I can show you like a really rough prototype. Might as well. But it's still in the middle of being built. So here, I didn't fill in some of these answers. Okay. No. Okay. So yeah, if I'm like, when you review a question, you can mark your confidence level in the question. So I chose A, like pretend that I chose A when I was solving it. Now I'm just double checking here. Okay, and then this button probably needs to get restyled, but if I'm not high confidence in A, then I can retry it, and then I could predict the structure, the function of the second sentence. So then this is saying research question, unresolved research question because of some factor that is unknown. And then I will be able to reveal. Now this one needs to be totally redone, but yeah, I'll be able to match my answers. This is way too much time, but yeah. And right now we're not fully done with the entire interface, so that's as far as we get here. All right, let's see. Chat is talking about not reading the answers for vocab questions. Yeah, prediction. So Dummy, thank you so much for coming back and saying hi. If you're still around, can you let me know what your actual reading question, your reading and writing score was before finding my videos and then after finding my videos? Yeah, Yasina, I can help. Let me check. Give me a sec. Let me make sure that I actually said everything I wanted to say, though. Give me a second. Oh, yes, I had one more thing on my mind. So I just showed you a quick snapshot of where we are with the app right now. So hopefully we get. I want to have a testable version of this predict and match experience by next week. So we'll see. By the time I'm streaming this to you guys next week, hopefully I have something more complete to show you. Now let's talk about Dummy Gum. You went up 50 points, so congratulations. That's a big jump on reading and writing, so that's amazing. I bet that because you were predicting the vocab questions, that probably kind of biased you towards reading a little bit slower on some of the other non-vocab questions. And I bet that helped you on your practice test. On your real test. I bet that slowing down on the reading, like subconsciously slowing down a little bit on the reading, probably helped you find the correct answers more during the real test, which is, it's surprising because most people talk about how to skip the reading. Even I've been yapping about this for multiple years now. I've been talking about this for like 5 years, I think. But still, even though I'm talking about this for 5 years, the general consensus is that you need to learn how to skip the reading when you can. And that's just not my approach whatsoever. So I don't know if that rubbed off on you, but if it did, that's uh, if it did, and if it helped you improve your score, that's amazing. Let's talk about Yas. No, so before I go to Yassine's question, which is going to be longer, it's going to take me longer to explain. I'm just going to quickly say the other thing. So next week I should have the app more or less testable, but the main problem now is that because I've been so busy with the app and with my teaching, I got delayed on writing a practice test. I have not been able to begin writing the practice test yet. So I'm a little stressed, to be honest, because when this app is ready to be released, I want my practice test to be out there together with the app so that you guys can go right into it. But my goal was to have two practice tests. And my goal is still to have two practice tests before the August SAT. Let's see, because I now only have 3 weeks to actually write the practice tests. So I gotta move on this. I gotta move on this. I don't think people realize how hard it is to write a practice test. It takes a lot of time to write a question. So we'll see. Let's go to Yassine. So Yassine is saying, can you explain how to answer inference questions efficiently? Well, if you want to answer inference questions efficiently, you need to have multiple skills at once. So what I'm gonna say to you will only make sense if you can actually do all the skills simultaneously. Other question types, you can answer them efficiently with like one or two skills. With inference, you're gonna need like five, six different skills simultaneously, and if you don't have the five or six skills, nothing I say is going to make any sense. But let's just assume right now you are scoring like a 730 and you want to get a 760. Because that's about the time when you really should start focusing on inference questions. If you're below 730, you should be okay with just getting lucky on inference questions and you shouldn't really worry about it. But let's say you are 730. Well, if you are 730, then what you need to do is you need to break down the passage and identify the rhetorical functions of each part of the passage. Oftentimes, the classic inference question will have a sort of general assumption or general belief that some scientists have or some people have kind of in the first half of the passage. Okay, and then the middle of the passage will talk about some, countervailing examples or whatever. And then at the end of the passage, you're going to have to you take the evidence that is in the middle of the passage, and then you have to apply it back onto the belief that's in the beginning of the passage. And how do you do that? You just identify the rhetorical functions of the various parts of the passage. If you do that, then the inference is pretty obvious. Scientists believe that monkeys speak English, according to some of these. According to the most recent experiments. The monkeys were able to formulate English sounding words like mom and dad, but they were unable to string the words together into grammatically cohesive sentences. Then what you say as your inference is, therefore, comma, dash, scientists are wrong. Monkeys don't speak English. That is your inference, right? And how do you do that? You do that because you can identify the rhetorical function, that there was a previous belief up top, countervailing evidence in the middle, and then an inference at the bottom. So that's the first skill, and so you need to identify the transitions, identify the functions of the various parts, and then apart from that, the other real trick with the inference questions is that they increase the information density on you pretty intensely. So what you need to do is you need to take those characters, like if it talks about like lab mice versus wild mice. And then within the wild mice, they talk about species 1 and species 2. Then you have three different characters where where the latter two characters are actually like a team of characters. So now you have to scaffold your characters to some extent. And then you have to associate their attributes with them correctly. Like the lab mice might display more sociability, whereas wild mice type 1 might display slightly less sociability, whereas wild mice type 2 actually has similar sociability, but it's not just sociability on these like harder inference questions. They actually have multiple layers of attributes, so you have to sort all those attributes out, and you have to associate them with the correct character. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And you really shouldn't be doing all that work unless you're already getting 730 or above. If you're like 670, then you should probably, I mean, you could practice it with unlimited time, but you should not be doing it within time. You should practice it with unlimited time for sure, but it is way too much work to do if you are trying to do it in time and you're not even getting a 700. You have to be higher than that to be trying to do this in time. What reading comprehensions are the easiest? The one for reading comprehension, the first one that I always it's weird, but actually, like synthesis and evidence quotation are a good pairing. Okay, synthesis and evidence quotation are a good pairing. So when I say evidence quotation, the College Board name for that is command of evidence, textual, command of textual evidence. But there's two types of textual evidence. There's empirical textual evidence, and then there's quotations. Okay, so there's the quotation specifically. Okay, synthesis questions are really easy, right? Well, the textual evidence questions are also, or the quotation questions are also quite easy. It's just that the language is more difficult. But the steps are basically the same. Okay, so the easiest reading question type is, I would say, evidence quotation. And so the most important thing is to approach it just like a synthesis question. In the synthesis question, you look for the writer's intention up top, and you break the writer's intention into parts, and then you try to satisfy all those parts with your answer choices A, B, C, D. Okay? In the evidence quotation question type, you take the claim. Okay? Now the claim is not up top, it's on the left side, it's where the passage is. So you identify the claim, and then you break the claim into parts, and then you try to satisfy all those parts with the answer choices A, B, C, D. It is exactly the same process. It's just that your eyes are looking at different parts of the page when you're doing it, but it is the exact same process. So learn to nail down the evidence quotation questions, okay? And plus, by doing the evidence quotation questions, you'll actually learn to develop, and especially if you study all the vocabulary, okay, you will learn to develop more sophisticated vocabulary by practicing the evidence quotation questions. Now, the second easiest reading question type is, because that's very specific, so I want to share the second easiest reading question type. That is overall structure and part function. Okay, overall structure and part function. What is part function? Part function is which choice best describes the function of the underlying portion, or which choice best describes the function of the underlying sentence, or whatever, right? But the function of the blah, 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 right? I call that part function. The function of this part of the passage with regard to the other parts of the passage, part function. So overall structure and part function questions are basically the same question, okay? What you need to do for overall structure and part function questions is you need to look at the passage, identify transitions, and whenever you identify a transition, you treat it like a transition question. You try to think, what is the relationship of this of the parts before this transition and the part after this transition, and you just do it in your head, okay? And then you keep reading and read until you see another transition, and then you again treat it like another transition question. What is the relationship of the part before this transition and after this transition? And now here's the big sort of implicit question. A lot of you guys think a transition is literally a transition word, like however or nevertheless or therefore. It is not. A period can be a transition. A comma can be a transition. A dash can be a transition. Anything can be a transition as long as you feel that there is a relation, like logically there is a difference between the part before and the part after, then it can be a transition. So when you read the passage, you identify all the transitions. Then in your head, you make a prediction. If it's an overall structure question, you just give all parts a label. So it goes from the claim to the reason to the evidence, right? It goes from a hypothesis to the hypothesis to methodology to results. Okay, so that is like your overall structure. You make that prediction and you look at A, B, C, D, and you match the answer that matches your prediction. This will train. If you practice these skills that I just discussed, okay, like satisfying all the parts of the claim, and identifying the transitions. Honestly, that's going to improve your reading so much. If you are currently at 600, just the two things that I talked about should get you to like 680 if you just practice it diligently. Okay, I'm seeing another question here. Lugman is saying, any tips for somebody who couldn't study math during childhood? Actually, I'm not the best person for math. I wouldn't really know how to study if I didn't study as a kid. Like, I can explain math concepts somewhat, but I'm not a tutor that is experienced with all of the varieties of problems that people run into. I am just somebody who used to be good at math, so I can explain things to people who are already okay at math. But yeah, I can't give you specific advice for because your situation is a little bit unique, and I don't really have specific advice. I can tell you what I would do if I were you, right? Um, if I were you, I would probably solve a practice test on the SAT with no time limit. Okay, so maybe I just go back and reopen it every time, right? Every time the time limit runs out, I just reopen it. But basically, what I would do is I would solve the math modules until I get a question where I cannot be absolutely sure of the answer. Okay? It's not about whether I'm getting it right or wrong, it's about getting it absolutely sure that I'm right. So maybe questions 1 through 6 are really easy, so I'm absolutely sure of my answers for 1 through 6. But let's say that on question 7, I'm no longer absolutely sure of that answer. Okay, for that question, I would probably stop the practice test now. I would take that question, I would feed it to ChatGPT, and then I would ask it to tell me, I don't have the skills to solve this question and know the answer with absolute certainty. Give me an index of all the skills I need to learn. And actually, I'll just start there. And then what I'll do, and then so I'll get the skills, right? Now, skills might not be the best word because maybe concepts is the better word. I don't know. Yeah, so I'd have to experiment with ChatGPT like to figure out what the wording is, but something like that. Okay, what are all the skills? What are all the concepts I need to know for that question type? Okay, and then I would go and research those skills and concepts, and I would learn those skills and concepts. And then I would go back to question number 7, and then I would I would look for similar practice questions that are in the same type, and I would make sure that I can master those, and then I would go back to the practice test and then just move on to the next skill. Okay, but that's if I have no structure whatsoever, right? But the thing about math is very structured. Like if you just buy some book, you're gonna catch up, right? Because math is really structured, unlike reading and writing. Reading and writing is extremely unstructured. And the way that people teach reading and writing is they only teach you like these little shortcuts that only work kind of on the SAT, right? They don't really teach you anything that's beyond the SAT. So, so yeah, I think math, you should be good. Just get a book and study it, and it should be fine. But again, if I were just completely unstructured, if somebody asked me how I would study, that's probably what I would do. Let's see. I'm seeing another question. I'm seeing Niraj. So let me start Niraj first. How do you enroll for the course? I'm actually quite shit at promoting my own course. Is it even in my... Oh, yeah, it is in my description. Okay, it's there. The course is... If you go into my description down there, down here, right? There is a... Was it? I think it says solve like me. Yeah, solve like me. And then there is a link that says learn.increments.me. I'm going to type it in here actually. HTTPS learn.increments.me. So you can actually access my course through this link. Again, this is not a fully featured course. This is a concept course. It teaches you the big picture concepts, like the theory that backs the way that I solve the questions, right? So it doesn't have a lot of practice questions or anything like that. And the examples that come out are from the SSQB. So this is my very early baby version of the course. The future version of the course is going to be more fully featured with lots of practice questions and non-SSQB, SSQB is the SAT Suite question bank. So I would use my own questions that are not from the question bank. But right now, this is just teaching the big picture. How does Saul solve questions the way that he does? What are the techniques that he's using, and why are those techniques useful, right? And how does time management work when you're using those techniques? So I discuss all the sort of theory behind it with while discussing the examples. You also do hands-on exercises. Like I ask you guys to pause the video and solve it and try to compare your thought process with my thought process. So as long as you do all that, you will learn how to solve the same way that I solve the SAT reading and writing. Itgel is saying right now he's doing the question bank, journaling thought process, predicting answers, 700 range, consistent 750, craft and structure. Oh, dude, I think you were the one who asked about the inference questions, right? No, that was someone else. But yeah, going back to you with craft and structure, it's just going back to the same thing I said like 5 or 10 minutes ago. Break down the passage, identify the transitions in the passage, and every time you feel a transition in the passage where you feel like it's saying something different, pause and treat it like a transition question, where you look at the left side of that transition and the right side of that transition and try to see what the relationship is. And then, if possible, try to label those parts, okay? So the most common labels that you need to know is like claim and evidence, claim and reason, claim and concession, and then return to claim. And then a hypothesis and study, or hypothesis and study design, and then results, right? Sometimes it's not a hypothesis, it's just a research question, and then study design, and then results. Right, but these are like labels that you can use to identify to name the function of each parts of these passages, and you can only find the function of the parts of the passage if you're actually identifying the transitions. And if you do this, okay, at first when you're practicing this, you might actually need more than 32 minutes. You might need 35 minutes, you might need 40 minutes, okay? That's okay. When you're practicing it, of course it's going to slow you down. That's okay. But practice it slowly, where you can identify the transitions, and then that will help you on basically every craft and structure question type. The reason craft and structure is called craft and structure is because they want to test your rhetorical analysis, and rhetorical analysis starts with identifying transitions. Lugman is saying horrendous math. Previous SAT format. Yes. Per passage for the previous SAT format, like the previous format, which had the 5 passages and 52 questions. 5 passages, 52 questions. That 52, I think. So that one is, and you're getting like 4 out of 10, 4 out of 11 on the passages. Okay, then there's something going on, and that's pretty extreme. So you're kind of you're kind of a sort of unusual case. I don't think my general advice will apply to you per se. There's probably something else going on, and I can't really tell you what to do unless I understand more about your background, because that is not a typical pattern. But from at face value, your question is is your reading ability the problem? And at face value, it appears so, apparently, but it might not be, especially if you are if you're sort of relatively high in neuroticism, you might be just a sort of tense person overall, and then the time pressure kind of makes and like tips you over the edge, and you might be making suboptimal choices. I don't know. Like I just don't know enough about you to give an answer, a definite answer, one way or the other, right? It could be your reading ability. It could be, it could be your logic, your abstract reasoning. It could be your test taking mechanics. It could be presumably it's not your vocabulary if you're reading books like Blood Meridian, but like I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know from just the description of what you've said so far. To improve vocab, Yassine asks, do you recommend memorizing vocab words from a Quizlet or prefixes and roots? I mean, the short answer is why not both, right? You should be doing all of it. You should be studying a lot of vocab, so there's no limiting yourself. But I will say, like prefixes and suffixes are very basic. I mean, you should know how to identify related word forms. So if I say something like induce, and I ask you, what is the part of speech of induce? You need to tell me verb, right? And then when I say, what is the noun form of induce? And then everyone goes like, what is the noun form of induce? It's like, you know the noun form of induce. Every one of you knows the noun form of induce. So tell me the noun form of induce. And then like after like 15 seconds in a class of like 20, one person will be like induction. And it's like, yes, it's induction. How come you don't know the related word forms? How come when your girlfriend cuts her hair, you don't recognize her? That's ridiculous, right? It's the same person. It's the same word. You need to know when it's functioning as a verb versus functioning as a noun versus functioning as an adjective. Like you need to know the various forms of the same word. It's ridiculous that you guys don't know this. This was not as big of a problem like 5-10 years ago, or like 10 years ago. Like but your generation is ridiculous. You're like your generation cannot identify your own girlfriends when they wear a dress suddenly, and like, okay, it's still your girlfriend. Like you have to know. Like, and then like, but like, and I know it's not. I mean, I'm making it sound more obvious than it is. It's not super obvious, but like, this is something you should have been doing since elementary to middle school. Like, you should have been learning them together because they are the same word, right? They're the same word in different roles as adjectives or nouns or verbs, right? But it's not too late. Just start looking for, like, instead of using Google, let me actually show you Google. Okay, if I say induce, does Google ever tell me where induction is? Not really. I'd have to like do all of this, and it still doesn't make it easy for me. There we go. We have inductive, thankfully, but it doesn't make it easy for me to find the various word forms. Okay, this is just the verb forms, which is not the same. But if you habitually use an actual dictionary, okay, you get, not only do you get induction literally in the definitions, but you, okay, and the various verb forms, okay. Actually, here do you not get the? It's funny. Oh, here we go. Inducing is gentle persuasion. Inducement is allure. Induce can mean produce, or like cause. And induct and induction are somewhat different from induce and inducement, although they come from identical roots. So they kind of that's interesting. Merriam-Webster is seeing it, but it is yeah. But this is talking more about the leading forward, but it gives you further context around these words. It's interesting. That's slightly different from what I was saying, but here we get the induction here. But you can get more context around the word and learn more of the cousins of words and the siblings of words and the other forms of words if you use a proper dictionary that's formatted to be a real dictionary, unlike Google. Google just prioritize. Google's just so like if you do this, like Google is just so distracting. It makes you not really want to absorb the word. So I strongly recommend using a proper dictionary. So yes, you need to know those basic prefixes and suffixes because they're really basic. They show up all the time, and then you should probably. Uh, so you like I don't really know what your level is. If you're like an international student, it's possible that your prefix and suffix are very far behind. If you're very far behind, you should start with them. But my overall answer is why not both? Do all of it. Okay, guys. The stream has gone for 40 minutes, so I'm going to wrap up now. But thanks everyone for just coming in, chatting with me, letting me yap, talking about my course, about my app. So I'm really excited to show you the development of the app in the next week. Hopefully we have the full review modules or like the review interface ready so that you can practice predicting and matching and defending, which is my strategy that I teach in my course. If you are curious about my course and the strategies that, like the theory behind how and why Saul does what he does on those streams, you can actually learn the theory just from my course right now for $25 a month. I think it's 10 hours of video. So you get $25, you get 10 hours of video, which includes hands-on work. Like you can actually think through the process with me while watching the videos. So if you actually pause the video and all that stuff, it's probably more than 10 hours of studying to do. And people have given very positive reviews, even though it's a very sparsely populated course. I mean, there's not a lot of features other than just the video right now, but I think people are learning how to approach test taking differently thanks to the course. So yeah. If you're interested, you can access the course at learn.increments.me, learn.increments.me. The link is also in my description down here below. All right, so that's it for me, and I guess I'll see you guys 1 week from now when I have another update. So until then, keep on learning, keep on growing. All right, peace, guys.